I think the minute I stepped on our practice field for rugby, the calling happened.
An 8-year plan to be on the team. And I was in it within 2 years.
Don't wait until you are a pro to be a pro, right?
And I walk around with a rugby ball sometimes and they're like, what is this child on?
It looked like it was a heavy hit.
It's up, it's not up.
You know, that's the first time I played like professionally.
I'm making rugby money. How can I make money outside of it?
And there was 2 Scottish guys, and they said, "Oh, you're here for the movie."
That rugby is a game for all shapes and sizes, all cultural aspects.
He looked at me and he said, "You guys are awesome."
Grow rugby, grow rugby, grow rugby, grow rugby, grow rugby, grow rugby.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of Grow Rugby. My name is GiftTime and this is a show where we speak to people about the opportunities that they have had, created, or taken advantage of via rugby. Well, y'all, we've had quite an interesting weekend. It's an interesting weekend, you know. They had some great rugby with Vancouver Sevens going on. Shout out to USA Rugby men getting 5th place. Yo, shout out to the women. We're seeing new faces out there. I like seeing a new change, both for the men and the women, but seeing new changes coming in as we start the new era, new culture moment of things happening right now. So it's really great to be able to get that. And of course, you know, in our day-to-day lives, rugby happening on the regular. The 15th season is kicking off here in the States. You know, you can't beat that. And, you know, and then from an international level, you know, congratulations to Australia. Yeah, mollywopped South Africa. All right, I'm not going to lie. I gave up on Australia. I thought you guys basically quit on rugby union a couple of years back, and now you were just sleepwalking your way through. But you decided, hey, we gonna do this, and it looks like you guys came to play. So shout out and good congratulations. Of course, I want to be able to let you guys know, please, if you guys enjoy this, don't forget to like this. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And of course, please share this out with some of your friends, wherever it is, whether you're listening to a podcast and you're hearing on Apple Pod, Spotify, Amazon Music, the Anchor.fm app itself, Google, doesn't matter where, or whether you guys are watching it on YouTube and getting a chance to just enjoy the video, the visuals, the time that we spent getting to see the people and connect. I hope one way or another that you are being able to take something from this each and every week, because that's what I really want to make sure that you guys are getting, because we got amazing people. You know. So I don't want you guys to feel lost. So please let your friends know. Again, hit that subscribe, throw that notification button in so you know exactly when we post. And of course, please share this out. Today is going to be a clip show. I like to let you know. I don't know if you guys watch too much TV, because, you know, people don't really watch TV like that anymore. And since there's not really 23 episode, you know, story, you know, 23 episode shows anymore, you don't have that like random clip show that goes in the middle where it's just highlights of old stuff, and they usually use it as a means to pass time. But you know what? This is what you're going to get for today, because I think we got some great information. And, you know, I want to make sure that you guys are being able to hear some of the greatness that maybe you hadn't had the chance. Maybe the episode might be a little bit long and you just haven't found the right time. Well, let me throw you in some stuff so you guys have a chance to check it out. So, guys, this is going to be a good one. And before you go, please, I recommend that you guys go take a quick look over at greengeeks.com, because this is the premier server for all your online needs. And when I mean that, I'm talking about for your e-commerce, the stores that I definitely recommend you to go get, whether it's for your website, both personal or business, whether it is for emails and being able to have the ability to contact whoever. Like, Green Geeks services it all. And if you guys hit the link down below inside the description, you guys can get 60% off your first year with Green Geeks. And I'm telling you, this is already an amazing price by itself, but Green Geeks by itself already gives you so much for such an amazing value. It costs almost nothing comparatively per year. It's basically a little low. It's like $10 a year. It's like $10 a month. All right, $10 a month, man. And it gives you everything that you need to be able to have autonomy and control over your own digital life. And utilizing WordPress as their foundation, you have the ability to customize and develop any way that you want. So suggest it. hit that description down below, greengeeks.com, and you get 60% off your first year with Green Geeks. And also, guys, please, definitely, when we're talking about websites, check out rugbyoutletmall.com, because Rugby Outlet Mall is the place where we are trying to reset culture. Represent for the people, represent for the culture, represent for what the future of rugby is truly about. And we want to make sure that you are swagged out. We're going to be restocking everything soon. It's a new generation, new era. So I want to make sure that you guys grab what you can while items are still available. And of course, let your friends know so you guys can all be hooked up together. Roll into the crowd deep, y'all. So just letting you guys know. But in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys get some great gems, because we've had some amazing people during this time. So please enjoy the show for today. Check it out.
Grow Rugby, 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 Grow Rugby.
Rashad Lipfor of North Carolina A&T talking to us about being able to start a rugby team at an HBCU.
What was that like? Obviously, like, starting these teams, I respect it every time, because it is a dedicated position, because it's, especially whenever it's alone, you're starting it on your own, because you have to be the tent pole. That means if you're setting up practice, you gotta be at practice. If you miss, like, it's literally the foundation that breaks the whole house waiting to fall, you know? So
go ahead, man. I'm listening.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask you. So what, like, that process, like, what was the process getting into that point of actually getting the first guys together?
Man, I was a big social media activist, man. I was very big on Twitter, man. Like, hey, like, any guys that are interested in rugby, or even just want to know what rugby is about, man. A&T is one of those schools, man. We love our hashtag, man. The NCAT hashtag is always popping. Everybody's on. So I use that as an opportunity. And I actually had the intramural sports director reach out to me, man, and he was just like, hey, I hear that what it was I was using A&T. I was using flyers, but I was using A&T's logo. So he reached out to me. He was like, hey, man, I hear that you're using A&T's logo for a rugby program, and we don't have a rugby program on campus. And that's when we kind of got connected. And I was like, hey, man, we don't have a rugby program, but I'm about to start one, And it wasn't a oh, hey, let's start a program. It was no, man, I'm about to start a rugby program on campus.
Intention was set.
Yes, it was like, this is what I'm about to do, man. I'm a firm believer of speaking things into existence. And when I met him, I spoke it. I said, man, look, we're going to start a HBCU. We're going to have an HBCU rugby team. A&T is going to be on that list. We're going to start a rugby program. So we got together, man, and intramural sports meeting. It was probably about 150 students.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew when I got there that everybody was going to go sign up for flag football, because I've been doing some research.
That's the premier one. Everybody, come on now. That's number one always.
I've been, I have my ear to the streets, man. And everybody's like, oh, man, intramural flag football, intramural basketball. I'm like, man, flag football. I'm like, okay, all right. So talk to the intramural sports director. I talked to him. I'm like, hey, man, what can I do about getting a table set up out here at the intramural sports meeting? He's like, man, you know what? I got you. We're going to get you a table set up. So we get the table set up, man. I got the rugby ball sitting on the table. He introduces, hey, we have Rashad over here with the rugby program. And, we had a couple of people come down. But here's what it is, man. I got up from that table. I got up because I noticed that nobody was coming. I said, man, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to sit here twiddling my thumbs, man. And I went out, flag football table. And here's what it did. They put me right next to flag football. Right next to. So I'm seeing everybody sign up for flag football. I'm like, okay. So I get up, man, and I grab a section of the guys who are signing up for flag football, man. And I give them the guy. I speak loud. I'm like, you guys ever heard of rugby? They, nah, man. So, I'm preaching rugby. I'm like, man, you want to be a part of something. You want to be a part of something that's gonna last. You want to become a part of a brotherhood. You want to become a part of a sport that not only challenge you mentally, but physically, spiritually, and emotionally, man. Rugby is the place to be, because I tell them, man, rugby is not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and get back up and keep playing. So that's what I was preaching to him, man. And those guys, man, they ate it up, man. They
Let's
ate
go.
it up, man. They
Like,
ate it up,
I
man.
run through this wall.
I mean, so man, they ate it up, man, and they loved it, man. And I had a guy tell me, he was like, man, he said, man, you sold me. He said, and I had guys, man, come sign the list. I got their information down, man, and the next step, of course, was my first intramural practice, man. And I remember like it was yesterday, man. It was amazing. I had, and what's crazy was I not only had young men, I had young ladies as well. This is sophomore year, freshman year, sophomore year. So I now have young ladies and young men interested in playing rugby. So of course I'm just like, oh man, this is great. You know, I'm appealing to both sexes, you know, because I'm one of those, rugby is not just a man's sport. I know women, they hit just as hard as these men. So, you know, I welcome everybody. So my first intramural practice goes on, man. They get there, man, and the first thing I do, man, is I introduce myself, man. I give a little spiel about, you know, hey, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. You know, I play rugby here, and, you know, fortunate enough to come into contact with these people, man. And I told them, man, and I told them this is a commitment that I made them make from the first time they came out there. I told them, I said, this is the intramural interest practice for rugby. And I said, but the only thing I ask for you is that you give me 110% the whole time that you're out here. And I told them, I said, if you don't feel it, I said, if you're thinking about homework, you thinking about what you're going to eat when you leave, you thinking about the young lady or young man that you're about to go see when you leave her, I said, you know, you don't need to be here. I told him, I said, but if you want to be here and you want to give 110%, you really want to see what rugby is about, you stay. And I kid you not, man, I had not one person walk off the field.
Dude, that's
what's up. I kid you not.
I don't even know how you could. Like, I was still not even like I still want to run through this wall. Let's go. Nah, I'm not going nowhere.
Like, you know, so man, like I said, man, and another thing that I told them, man, I said, this is not for me. Yeah. I said, this is not for the fame. This is not for the glory of saying that I started the program. And I said, the only thing that I want to do, that how I know that I have been successful, is the atmosphere that I feel when I come to a practice. Right. To know that y'all have found something that y'all love. My guys that I have now, they are a rugby team. I know not because how they act in practice, but how they act outside of practice. Right. The way, the connection that they made, the time that they spend together. You know, these were guys that didn't know each other, didn't even know each other's last name the first time we came out there. Now here it is. They are communicating to me, hey, coach, let's get together, man. I know it's not a practice day, man, but let's get together and run some drills, man. Let's go throw a ball around. You know what I mean? So,
love that.
You know, that's what lets me know that, you know, this is that I'm on my way to more success.
Right.
Because like I said, man, it's not for me. Like I said, man, I just want to be the bridge. That's it, man. I just want to be the pathway to be like, you know, Rashad told me about rugby. He introduced me into it, man. He made me fall in love, and now this is something that I want my kids to do. You know what I mean? So,
no, dude, and that's so important. Like, look, that besides the mindset, besides the energy that goes with it, like it's kind of the mixture, because you do need to have somebody who's going to break the gates. You know, it's not even like it's not maybe they're being blocked. It's just a mental block. Like, again, knowledge is power, and if nobody knows about it, it's impossible for them to know. But that's always been the thing that's interested me about rugby. Is unlike so many other sports, and the one thing I always hate is when people are like, "Oh, rugby better than football better than rugby." I'm like, no. That's not what this is about. The thing that makes it so different is somehow about the interconnected energy between the people. Like, and I think it has to do with how you treat your opponents as much as you treat your own brethren. It's like everybody is still in the same family, but you know, we might be going against, I'm not going to let you beat me, but yo, I still love you in the end, and I'm going to go chill with you afterwards in whatever way, shape, or form. But it somehow works at a sensibility, and I think the same thing goes whenever you start playing it, especially whenever you get all these new people. It's that same sensibility. It's not like, you know, we're not that you can't compete for your position. Obviously,
of course,
position, but it's still, yo, I'm going to still help you get up. Like, I'm going to still help you move forward with it.
Exactly, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I tell them, man, I'm like, you know, I tell them, man, from the jump, man, when we first started, I said, these are your brothers, man. I said, these are not just your teammates, man. These are your brothers, man. Y'all, because another thing that rugby teaches, man, that I really love is accountability, man. You're not only accountable for yourself on the field, man. You're accountable for your brothers, man. It's your job to go work over them when they go down, man. You're accountable for them, man. So, and that's something that I taught them from the jump, man, was just like, you know, when y'all step out on that pitch, man, y'all have to take care of each other, man. Like I told him, man, and something that Coach Young taught me, man, a long, long time ago about opponents, man. That respect that you have, never turn your back on your opponent. Yeah. If you, man, if they score, you don't turn around and walk back, man, because they kick that ball off in your back turn.
They're gonna get it back again. Start again.
You know, so you turn around and you backpedal and you always face your opponents, man. And it's a life lesson. You know, every obstacle that you want to face it head on, man. So why not do the same for your opponents? So
no, that's so true. That's so true. I love that. I truly love that. You know, so when you started playing, when you put the team together, you got these guys together. What was the first game like for you?
So unfortunately, we haven't been able to play a full match.
Okay.
As far as like, you know, reps and everything, but
you got some scrimmage. That's
we've gotten some.
I'll call that a match. Yo, what? I'll call it whatever it is. Yo, you guys played on the field against either yourselves or against other people, right?
Uh-huh.
All right, perfect.
So and I just want to give a shout out to men's triad rugby program in Greensboro as well, man, because they've been really adamant as far as that, man, helping us out, man. They've really given us a helping hand, man. They've allowed us to come in and sit in and practices, man, and come in, and they've allowed them to immerse in their practices. And this is a men's rugby club in Greensboro. So just kind of get their first practice out there, man. It was amazing, man, just to see the intensity level pick up, man, because, you know, like I said, man, I have a small group of guys, maybe about 7 to 9 guys, man. So it's not a lot of us, man. So it's a small group, man, but they're dedicated. And I tell them, man, I would rather have 10 guys that are dedicated to what they do than have 20 and not have half of them be dedicated. So, man, I took them out there to triad, man, and man, they were sponges, man. They soaked it all up, man. They soaked up the intensity. They soaked up the pace of play, man. Like I said, man, and this is just a regular practice that they sat in, man, and they just soaked it up, man. And the men on men's triad rugby program, man, of course they met me first. You know, Coach Morris in Greensboro, man, he invited me out first, and he was like, you know, he let them know, like, hey, Rashad is trying to get a program started at A&T, and the first thing they said was, man, as soon as you get enough guys, bring them out here to our practice. So, you know, of course, I held it up, and when I brought them out there, man, they just, man, like I said, man, they were sponges, man. They fell in love with the sport even more because now they were around people who pushed them harder than they pushed themselves in practice. You know,
right. It
was a more so of oh man, this man is 35, 40, man, and outrunning me. You know what I mean? So it was that, you know, I want to keep up. So, man, like I said, they were sponges, man. Like I said, and I commend it for it, man, for them going out there and not being intimidated.
Right.
Man, they walked out there, man, like they own the field, you know.
That's legit.
And I told them, you know, this is their practice. I mean, like I said, man, the drills that they ran through, man, they ran through as if they had been playing rugby for years, man. So it was amazing. It was an amazing experience.
Dude, that's awesome. And it's so important because, it sets the culture. Like, it sets the culture for what happens next. You know, whenever you graduate, it's going to be these next guys that are going to be kicking in and how they recruit, how they bring these people in.
Right.
But, you know, it even stands out even more to the fact of, like, whenever you have these guys, like you said, it's better to have 7, 9 dedicated guys than 30, 40 flagrant guys because you never know. It's that dependency of knowing, hey, I know you're going to be here. I know you guys want this. I know that there's something that you're aiming for. And the fact that you guys are still willing to practice and work to try and get there, and that hasn't even hit, like, gameplay yet, which will even absorb them harder. That makes it that's massive. That is massive.
I mean, like I said, man, I love my guys, man. I tell them, man, I eat, sleep, and I breathe rugby, man. If I'm not in class, I'm looking at rugby drills, man. I'm calling Sam. I'm like, bro, I need some drills, man. Help me out. I'm on YouTube, man. I'm looking at games, man. I try to get them together to watch rugby games, man. We go out and we go support triad. We go watch them play, man. So, like I said, man, it's just, like, man, it's the dedication, man, because, I mean, how often is it, man, like I said, man, we haven't played yet, but I still have a full 7 guys showing up to a game. You know what I mean? Right. Just to experience it, just to see it, just to kind of see what it looks like, just to kind of get a taste of it, man. So, like I said, man, I'm honored, man. I'm blessed, man. Like I said, man, it's hard to put it into words sometimes, man, to just express how excited, man, how honored I am to have those guys and to be doing something that's so much bigger than I am. So,
right, dude, and that's the name of the game right there. It's knowing that you're picking up something so much more than what's just between the lines.
Right.
Dude, I remember, it's funny whenever you were talking about whenever your guys went out there and they're running against the 35, 40-year-old dude. I remember I was exactly the same. When I started playing, it was literally that. It was just like, yo, I'd go running and I'm like, yo, I can at least sprint with these guys. Like, I'm not even worried. And then all of a sudden you're just like, yo, how are you this fast? Yo, how are you still running right now? Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I pridefully cannot allow this to happen.
Yeah,
but there's nothing I can do about it.
It's like, man, like, geez, man, God, you know, man, shoot, you running like you still in high school. I mean, like you say, man, they keep themselves in shape, man. Like I said, man, and I love it, man. We go out there, man, and try it. They push my guys, man. They push them, man. They throw them where they see fit, man. They're just like, they push them, and they're like, you can do this. You know what I mean? They're just, it's not more so, but like I said, man, they don't ever feel intimidated, man. Triad is always more than welcoming when we come out there, man. They enjoy having us out there, man. They're come out here come out here all week, man. Come out here every week. We're gonna see y'all next week. We're gonna, so like I said, man, it's just like I said, man, it's that rugby culture, man. It's something about that culture, man. If you can find somebody who's deeply rooted in rugby, man, and you can get them talking, man, y'all will talk for hours, days, weeks, months, years. You look up and 2 years in, they're like, man, how did you meet them, man? And you be like, man, we started talking about rugby in a Walmart, and here we are, man.
How do we end up getting drinks and just chilling out? Look, I'm not even mad at it. Yo, cheers, brother. Cheers.
It's like, hey, cheers, man. Same time next week, right, man?
Right? Man, yo, I love it. And it's so true. It's so true. So it looks like you're setting yourself up for this beautiful pathway towards coaching, like legitimately deeping into it. And I'm sure Sam has given you a lot of pointers and talked in your ear a lot about this too.
Yeah.
So, for you, obviously this next step, and barring whatever happened with COVID-19 and everything like that, but this next step comes into almost probably doing more of the organizational and administrative stuff.
Yes.
Have you been talking? You spoke about the head coach for Greensboro. Have you been talking with them or any other coaches about what that next move is? And
I have been almost harassing the intramural sports director, man. We had the intramural sports director that I started with back in about 2017. He transitioned to another position. Okay. So this was actually fall going into this spring. So spring semester right around, man, I was like, man, I got to meet this new intramural sports director, man, because I'm thinking more of stuff, man. I've stuck a pin in it. I want to pick up where we left off.
Right.
So I meet the guy, I meet the new intramural sports director. I'm letting him know. He's like, hey, man, I'm Rashad Lipfor. I don't know if anybody left you any sticky notes about who I am, what I'm trying to do here at A&T's campus, but I just wanted to come talk to you, man, and let you know what I'm trying to do here. And I'll talk to him, man, and he's open ears, man. He's really engaged, man. He sat there, man. We sat there, talked for maybe about an hour, man, and he took notes. He got contact information down, man. So actually, man, our next step before COVID kicked in was actually getting ready to sit down and actually have a meeting with the intramural sports department as far as the intramural sports director, the chair, the guy who cuts the check for intramural sports, man. And I put it to him like this, man. I told him I wanted to kind of set up like a pitch meeting. Like I wanted to really sit down and pitch rugby to them about how I believe rugby at HBCU will not only please the alumni, but it'll also please the donors that you guys have in, because you guys are now showing their diversity. It would also help with the student enrollment, because you now have something on a sports level that students can look at and be like, wow, A&T offers rugby. I play rugby. Let's go to A&T, you know what I mean? So it was kind of setting up a pitch meeting for them. But unfortunately, man, due to the COVID, man, A&T moved very swiftly with making sure that we got off campus. So
they were like, we not even gonna play with this. You guys gotta go.
They sent the email, man. As soon as we got an email about apparently somebody traveling back to Greensboro that had caught the COVID, man, and A&T they were on a frenzy, man. Students were going crazy, and A&T sent the email. I was like, hey, we're monitoring, we're doing what we can. And I kid you not, man, 3 days later, we got an email saying that y'all have to leave if you stay in a dorm, if you stay in a campus apartment. Y'all have to be gone by this date. No ifs, ands, or buts. Make the necessary travel arrangements. Don't tell me about what your mama can't do, what your daddy can't do. I'm telling y'all what we need y'all to do. So, like I said, man, unfortunately, man, COVID came in and kind of just put a halt to everything, man. But our Chancellor Martin, man, has been sending numerous emails about us possibly resuming in the fall. Unfortunately, the word is that we won't be doing any fall athletics.
Right, that makes sense.
Which hurts my heart. Yeah, I mean, you know, it hurts my heart, man, because, you know, my guys, I'm like, you know, my guys, man, what am I going to tell my guys? So, but I'm still emailing intramural sports director. I'm still reaching out to him, and we're still connected. I'm still trying to, man, as soon as we get on campus, let's set up a meeting, man. If we can't do anything this fall, let's do something this spring, man, which really works for me, because when I started, man, you know, 15s, it's hard to get 15 guys, man. It's hard to get 15 to stay committed. So I strive for 7s when I'm always 7 seasons. And I know the guys are going to enjoy 7s a lot more. You know, I love 15s, but I know they're runners. They love to run. I'm like,
they like the open space.
So I strive for 7s. So again, like I said, man, I'm reaching out to him again now, man. Like, hey, let's do a Zoom meeting, man. You know what I'm saying? Let's not prolong anything, man. We don't have to have this meeting on campus, man. Let's get a Zoom set up, man. I'll print out my proposal, man. If I have to sit down and have a whiteboard and so y'all can, you know, see what's going on, man, we will. So like I said, man, I'm working very closely with intramural sports.
We have Adam Milby, president of Philippines Rugby Union, talking to us about unique ways of being able to connect with your community. You now got into and became a component of Philippines Rugby. You took on the national team. For you, because this is basically meaning now you're part of this development of this squad that has been going. And for what it's worth, from what I've understood, Philippines Rugby has developed significantly over the last 10 years. At least definitely from the men's side I knew. And from what I've seen from Bangkok 10s and then subsequently from literally the Bangkok 10s and Saigon 10s, the women's side has slowly been increasing itself over this last 5 years. So for you, like, now that you've gone from amateur social to kind of steady to developing, and then now you're really in the crux of developing and like educating it. What has that path been like for you in being able to see it and literally building this thing almost from ground up?
Yeah, I think like it's like one of those things like when you first get like your first leadership position and you're like, yeah, I'm the boss. Yeah. What up? And you just think that you know everything, right? But really, like, actually, all you can see is like right here. Like, this is all you can actually see. And then, you know, you spend a couple of years, and then you're like, oh, I can see a little bit more. And then you come more, like, oh, dang, I can see a little bit more. Until then, you realize one day, like, I didn't know anything back then. I just thought I knew. Yes. Yeah, so that's basically been my leadership journey, or that's been my journey throughout this whole thing, is like, you know, being able to see a little bit more of the bigger picture, and then having these experiences. And that's why I think traveling with rugby is such a wonderful experience, because then you get to really capture different perspectives or different stories, or you know, different ways of looking at things, or different ideas about how the rugby should be developed. I mean, how we develop rugby in the U.S. is maybe different from how we would develop rugby in Southeast Asia, and is different from how we would develop it in Africa. And I think, but there are some common themes, right? And it's about like having all these conversations, having all these experiences, taking away the things that you think are applicable for your context, and you know, and then kind of shutting the rest, right? And I think that's what's probably going to serve the Philippines best is, you know, for me being in the position that I'm in now, is recognizing like, okay, I've had all these experiences at World Rugby, Asia Rugby. You know, I've even been to Botswana. I've traveled a lot of different places, and just recognizing the commonalities that I think that we can address that would help everybody. And then recognizing that there are some specific things that are contextual only in the Philippines. Like, for instance, rugby in the Philippines right now is known as a solvent. It's a sniffing solvent that kids do to get high.
Oh, wow.
That doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. When you go out on the streets and you tell kids, hey, do you want to do rugby? They think you want to go get high. And so we've got that sort of additional barrier that we've got to overcome, a cultural context that we've got to overcome. But it's also a really cool thing something, because it opens up some ideas around like, okay, maybe we can team up with the Department of Health, or maybe we can team up with the schools to make it an anti-drug campaign. And that's something that we wouldn't otherwise maybe had exposure to. So I think, I think it's really just about like doing the hard yards, as we were talking about earlier. You know, it's just like really about plugging away. There's no, I mean, I used to hate when I was younger. I used to hate when the old people would tell me like, you just gotta wait your time. You gotta make sure you got your experience and blah blah blah. But there is some validity to it. I think. I mean, I think it's really important to continue having like the vitality of like being young and having these great ideas, but like there's also something to be said about just like plugging away, because you know, you think that there's going to be these quick fixes, like, oh, if I just do this one thing, I can like fix the whole problem. And it's like, actually, it's usually like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, 4 steps forward, 5 steps back. And it's just like this progress of, you know, there's never really a straight line. It's just really this winding road. As long as you're sort of eventually getting forward, just accept the fact that there's going to be setbacks and challenges along the way.
No, I was talking with somebody and I told him this exactly. I was like, look, even whenever something seems simple, it's never easy. It's just, it's always this wild process regardless. And I love hearing that, because, you know, for me, when it comes to the positioning of rugby, I look at it from rugby as an industry versus just rugby as the game, but they play it in the same way, especially in non-major rugby countries like the US and the Philippines and such, where it is, you're navigating this new pathway, especially now, you're navigating this new pathway, and you're thinking, look, all it is A, B, C, D, but then when you realize it's like A, Z, X, Y, B, C, LMNOPQRD, and you're just like, yo, wait, why are we doing so much? But in that process, you do actually end up taking so much new information, and it does create it. So, like, the fact that you're able to go utilize something like rebranding rugby into an actual functional, greater than the sport element is amazing. It's amazing, and it's everything that I would have believed that you can utilize rugby for. Even if it's small and nuanced, it's that resonating effect that goes, right?
Yeah, definitely. Especially because in Asia, in a lot of Asian countries, there's just not a lot of emphasis on sport. It's much more emphasized education. You know, some of those stereotypes that we have around, you know, Asian kids being the nerds. It's always being the smart ones in the room. It's because there's a lot there. I mean, stereotypes do usually come about because there's some level of truth to it. And it's because
as a Nigerian, I understand.
Don't really value sports. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, essentially the parents are like, there's no value in being able to create a viable career option for my kid. So why should I get them involved in sport? And so when we're approaching development of rugby or any sport, really, I think in Asia, you've got to figure out how can I appeal to the parents, right? Because in the States, it's easy, right? Everyone starts sports at, you know, age 2, age 3. We're like, I got to get an early start on it. If they want to get into the NFL, they want to get into the NBA. You know, we know that we've got to get them started really early. But in Asia, it's more like, okay, we've got to go from the angle of like, hey, your kid's going to get an education, and we're just doing this rugby thing on the side, but we're actually teaching them life skills. So it's like the approach is like sport for development rather than sport development, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. And, you know, I like it because we talk about that even here is, what is it that you want rugby? We talk about with people. What is it that you want rugby to be? What is the value proposition? Because I think the same issue still resonates. It's why, like, because I know we understand it as we play it for passion, we enjoy it, the camaraderie, all that, the basic tagline. But as you start to recruit, and especially in this era where people are wanting to make sure what's the end game and finding the longevity for it, you have to add that value prop. And so, you know, whether it's like, I think now with in the US, obviously with MLR, there's a little bit of a career value, and I've seen it with the high school students, but I still go like, you know, where you can travel, you can find opportunity, that global network. So for you guys, like, obviously facing it towards education or otherwise, like, what are, and, you know, if you don't want to tell me trade secrets, I got you. You know, I understand. You got to put it together. But You know, what are some things that you guys have felt have revealed themselves as you've been, you know, seeing this process that you're like, this wasn't tapped in the way that it could have, but now we're going to kind of aim a little bit more on this direction?
Well, I think like there's no trade secret per se, you know, because you can't, it's not really applicable for the States as far as development goes. So, you know,
writing it down.
Yeah, you just write, it's fine. You can write it all down. Happy to give away the trade secrets. It's not much of it. It's like a big open secret. So I think for us, part of our success of the men's program has really been about exploring international talent, right? So I didn't come here with the mind to play rugby, but we basically, Filipinos through history have sort of spread out all over the planet. And so there are lots of, you know, Filipinos or half Filipinos or Filipinos with grandparents and stuff like that. And they're just all over the place. And they're playing rugby in countries like the US and Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and all that sort of stuff. And that's really provided a huge boost to our national team to be able to tap into the international talent pool of Filipinos already playing the game. Whereas it you know, obviously we're about 20 years old as far as the union is concerned. Right. And so it takes a long time to build local rugby, right? It really takes a long time and a lot of concerted effort. And so it's really helped us to raise the profile by bringing in some of our international talent. And now we're at the stage where we're you know, slowly building up the local pool, integrating them with the international pool to such a stage that we're hoping that a few more years' time we'll be less reliant on some of the international players because we've built up more of our grassroots players here locally. But yeah, that's really been a huge boost to raising the profile. So for us to be able to build on it more. But I think moving forward, obviously it is about trying to find a balance, because I think in Asia, or maybe it's just in the context of the Philippines, there's kind of like, are you Filipino enough? You know, or you're not a true Filipino because you're not from here. You're not a true Filipino because you're only half. And it's like, man, unless you're the color of gift, nobody's a true Filipino in this country. Because if you look at the real indigenous Filipinos, we look very Pacific. We're very, very dark. And so, you know, it's a strange cultural thing where, you know, people, I think where people can't separate or segregate based on race, they'll segregate based on social class, or they'll segregate based on percentage of pure blood, or whatever you want to look at. Man, I'm probably not going to get a lot of likes for this, but you know, I think like
speak the truth. That's all you can do.
Being a representative of a country just means that you know, World Rugby laws say it well. It's that you've got a true connection to the country that you're representing, right? And so, you know, it doesn't matter if you're 50% blood or you're 75% blood or whatever, whether you were born here or your mother was born here, your grandparents were born here. You know, the point is that you have a true bond with the country that you're representing, and I think that's really a valid point for all of us. And you know, whether you're whatever your color, creed, religion, gender, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's so true. And I think it's just about supporting and promoting the sport for the sport, right? Not based on percentage of blood or anything like that. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying that, you know, for us, it's about finding a balance between getting the best that we have and building the best that we want between the two pools.
Naya Tapper, Olympian and USA Rugby Women's Sevens member, talking to us about being unabashedly confident in whatever it is that you do. I'd always been a big advocate, and it was one of my favorite things about you on social media as well, because it was just like, yo, she's swagging out. Like, bring that full swag. All right, let's go. But then whenever I found out you were Jamaican and Puerto Rican, I was like, okay, this is just in the this is a super mix right here. The only thing I was just waiting to see was just like this little bit of Nigerian to come in, and I'd be like, it came full circle. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, so, you know,
for you, obviously, the burst of personality comes out, but it's interesting how it's used. You bring it in fashion-wise, you bring it in athletically, you bring it in skit-wise. So for you, like, what's the thought process whenever you're going through these moments of expression? Like, what's the fashion style set up, and you know what you're going on, because it really creates a normalization of it for, I think, the social media wise, and which is good because it feels much more approachable.
I think it's just confidence for me. Like, I think that I look good in honestly everything that I put on. I think that everything that comes out my mouth is funny, whether people agree or not. So that's kind of how I go about what I post. There is really not a thought process. It's just what comes out is what it is for me. Everybody knows I'm pretty blunt, and if you ever want to hear an honest opinion, you come to Naya because she's going to tell you the truth. And just in general with fashion, like, I just kind of go off like what my friends think is hot, or like what's hot in the fashion community, and just like whatever I put on it, if it makes me feel good, then that's what I'm going to wear. And like I said, just the confidence of, if I think it looks good, I'm going to wear it and I'm going to post it. And confidence is so much more fashionable than anything that you put on. So I think that's mainly it for me, is that I think that everything I do and say, and just everything I do and say, is great. So if you have that type of confidence, everybody's going to be attracted to that, because that's what everybody wants, is that confidence, a high self-esteem.
Thiel, former USA Rugby men's player and multiple Rugby World Cup participant, talks to us about what it means to be able to play rugby at an efficient and accurate level, and how it compares to us.
And it was a pretty good game, though. And then that next year, we decided to play the All Blacks. So, like, I went from playing club rugby, a bunch of us did, not just me, went from playing club rugby to playing the All Blacks. I mean, that is a pretty big jump.
Like, there might be some leaps on that one.
That's like, dude, that's no joke, from like, you know, standing up out of a chair to being able to fly. You know what I mean? Like, that's the size of the leap there. Those guys are like, when you talk about that kind of jump, like those guys, or even like the tiers right below them,
right?
It's huge. You know what I mean? It's a massive jump.
So from your perspective, because this is the part that this has always confused me in rugby. So everything's especially in sports, copycat is natural. Like, we say NFL is a copycat league, college is a copycat league, because we see what others do and follow it. You know, when you played the All Blacks, and there's one thing to see the All Blacks. It's another thing to be on the field with the All Blacks. And you had already the All Black juniors with the Maoris, essentially, which are just the All Blacks that didn't make it, but are still basically the All Blacks.
Still really good. Yeah,
it's like you're ranked high in the world rankings.
Oh, man, they would be a top 10 team. Yeah, the Maori All Blacks would be like a top 10, top 12 team, no problem.
Exactly. So what is it that, from your perspective, that differed them so much from what you played with, whether it's Japan, whether it is any of the D2, whether the tier 2 teams, like, what is it that makes them so different? Is it just because they played for longer, or is it?
You know, the funny thing with them is, like, there's certain teams that we always seemed in my day to do really bad against. Yeah. And it was always the Southern Hemisphere teams. Like, the Northern Hemisphere teams, we usually kept it within, like, a reasonable distance. You know what I mean? Maybe, you know, I know Ireland's gotten ahead of us a few times. Since I've retired, they had a pretty good win against us a couple years ago, you know.
Scotland,
the guys beat Scotland, right? The guys beat Scotland. We had a close one with Scotland when I was playing. You know, so it's usually pretty close, though. It's just so fast. And it's almost like, especially then, they were doing stuff when we were still thinking about doing it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Like, we'd see a ball move and my brain would be like, oh, go get that ball. And they'd already be like, they would already have it and passed it 4 times. And, like, you know, there was one, I remember there was there was, and I don't want to drop names, but I got to hit Sonny Bill Williams a couple times, right? I remember I tackled him once. Me and Adam Siddall tackled him, and it looks like his legs are like bigger than us, and I was like a hooker. You know, Adam was like a big dude, and we're like hidden by his legs, like he's going over top of us. And but anyway, I still remember this, like. They had beaten us on overlap. It was like 50 something at this point, 50 something to 6 at this point. And I'm like, you know what? I was stuck 1 on like 6, and they had beaten us on an overlap. And I'm like, you know what? Forget this, man. Like I saw him coming down for an offload line, and I'm like, I'm just gonna hit him. I don't care what happens. I'm just gonna hit him, and whatever happens, happens, right? Like it's a 6-on-1. Like I don't care. And so I go and I hit him, and I hit him pretty hard.
Yeah.
Off the side of a ruck, right? Somebody popped the ball up to him from like a breakdown.
Right.
And which they never had breakdowns.
Right. It's just like a slowdown of momentum into the ground, but it's still.
Yeah. And so I hit him, and I put a pretty good shot on, and I look down, and the ball's gone, and I was like, what? And I look back, and somebody's in the end goal scoring, man. Somebody's in the try zone scoring. I was like, where did the ball go, dude? And he's just like looking up at me, and I'm just like, what? Like, this is stupid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I totally was like, first of all, I hit you. You must not even had the ball when I hit you. You probably flicked it without me even knowing it, and now I just did nothing. You know what I mean? And you scored again, right? I mean, it was
you left
awesome
the gap space open.
Yeah, like I left 1 or 9 gaps open on that one. You know what I mean? So it was whatever. But
so yeah, and that's, I guess that's interesting because it again, the dynamic of that seems like it should be so small. Like, all right, what the skill, the thinking of it, but it still kind of boggles just because it is so nuanced, and it just.
It's like you look at it and one-on-one tackle rate versus those guys. Like, I am stoked. I got the chance to tackle, I think, like Kieran Reed and Artie Savia. I think he played that game, if I remember correctly. He was pretty young then. And like Sonny Bill and all these dudes, right? Like Kevin Mialamu played. He was like my superhero when I first started playing rugby, right? He's like this tall, but he's like 9 feet wide. You know what I mean? And he's like 5'7", like 400 pounds of pure muscle. Like, I don't even know where he puts it. But I got to hit those guys and stuff, and like it was really cool. And we actually did a pretty good job in like the one-on-one physical matchups. You know what I mean? Because you got dudes that we trained hard, and if you put us up against them in like the pre-NFL draft process, we're gonna be like right there with them. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then you put us on a rugby field with 14 of our friends, and suddenly it's a completely different thing. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden they're a half step past you, and they're fast enough to then outrun you. And their wings are monsters. You know what I mean? And their props are doing like, behind the back flicks out the back and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And you're just overwhelmed by it. And unless you're a team like, say, in England or South Africa or Australia, whatever, that trains and plays in that environment all the time, it just kind of like suddenly it was like 60 points. You know what I mean?
Right. And it picked up because I remember like even for that game, it was like the first half of the first quarter or the first half of the first half, it was a close game. And then it was like, okay, they scored. And you're just like, wait, how did this get 4 scores up in half of a half?
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. And we went to halftime. It was like 28-6. And we were like, what the heck? Like, oh, for sure, man. And then like in some teams it's the exact opposite. I remember South Africa at the World Cup, it was like 14-0 at halftime, right? And it was like a reasonable game. We had a couple opportunities. We probably should have put like 6 points on the board. Probably should have been like 14-6. Right. It's like it was a reasonable game, but it ended up like 64-0. Right. You know what I mean? In Australia, the 2011 World Cup was like 15-8. Like we scored. I think it was JJ Gaggiano had like a great pick off the base of a scrum, scored. It was like 15-8. And we were like, oh, sweet. And then suddenly it was like 60-8. You know what I mean? And you're just like, how did that happen?
Like, I was gonna say, like, whenever you're in that moment, is it just more of like it just feels like it just gradually appears? Like you don't feel the score. You're just like, okay, they scored. It's okay. We're gonna get this back.
Yeah, we'll get one back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because we're all from like if you're a club guy, and now it's all it's all professional guys and stuff. It's awesome. But back then there was such a huge gap between the pro guys and the domestic guys. Just when it came to understanding the game and having those situations, be around situations, we were all the guys on clubs that were like, we never lost. Right. You know what I mean? Like, or if we lost, it was only to each other. Like it was like Life guys, Golden Gate guys, Naya guys, Old Blue guys. We only lost to each other. You know what I mean? And So suddenly you're in this scenario where you're like, oh, they scored, no big deal, we'll get the next one. And then like you say that 6 times in a row and you're like, I don't think we're going to get the next one. I'm not sure if we're going to get the next one on this, man.
And we got Charity Williams, Olympian, Canada Sevens women's player, and of course, talking to us about legacy and what it is to interact and develop camaraderie with your opponent.
It's old, but it's young in its actions, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, and rugby too is like one of the fastest growing sports in North America right now. So like people are just like jumping onto it because it's so successful and it's so much fun, and it's literally something that everyone can do no matter your size, whatever, like male, female, like everybody can play rugby. There's literally a spot for everyone, and that's one of the reasons why I love the game so much, because it's so inclusive. And yeah, it's just such a great game.
Great game, great culture. Like it's real, and it again, you know, I've always been a big believer. All sports have their own element to it.
Yeah.
But I think whenever it comes to the combination, where it's not just if I'm with my team and this is my people and that's solely it, and we work within this dynamic, it feels that regardless. And I want to ask, you know, after you're playing your opponents, like, what's your interaction with these other women that you've played against? Like, have you created relationships with them, or is it kind of just like, you know, we play and then we kind of go our way? Like, how has that worked for you? How have you seen it go on the bigger scale?
Yeah, it is actually so funny because for sevens, at least, like when we travel to tournaments, usually all the men from the series stay in one hotel and all the women from the series stay in one. So we see each other like throughout the entire week before we actually play. So it's just so weird because we'll be like, you know, at lunch, we're like, oh, hey, how's it going? Like, I'm going to play you my first game. I hope you lose. Like, you know what I mean? You're like, but you're like, oh yeah, like, how are you? And like, but it's all real, but it's just so funny because, you know, we're these, like, as soon as we get on the field, we're these competitors, and, you know, we go neck and neck and we fight and we don't give an inch. But then we'll sit down and have a drink at the end of it, you know, and it's just a weird community. Like, it's so weird.
Like, yo, aren't I supposed to still kind of hate you after?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm like, yo, you know what? It's good. I'll stay here. You stay over there. But like, so some of my teammates, a lot of my teammates have actually made a lot of connections with a lot of the other teams. And I think it's really great. It's just really not for me, but I do. I do think it's awesome, and it's cool that they, you know, because now you have this connection with someone from another country, and, you know, if you ever need anything or if you're ever there, then they kind of hook you up. But it is a really cool environment, and I think it's pretty sweet.
You know, and so kind of even within that connection, as you've started building your brand, I've seen you in more and more articles, everything like that. Like, have you started looking at what it means for the future? Obviously, game to game, there's always something, but for you, now that you are more of a veteran in this, have you started kind of looking at, okay, this is what I want my legacy to be? You know what your legacy wants to be on the field, but do you know if you've kind of started looking at what you want your legacy to be kind of off field as well?
Yeah, like it's
okay. You take your time. Take your time. The heat is on.
Well, I mean, okay, so I've obviously, my dream has always been to be an Olympian, but because of the way my life has gone, I also really want to help people. And so one of the biggest things that I love so much about where I am is I have a huge platform that's only getting bigger and bigger. And I love that because I can reach out to so many different kinds of people. And the one thing I wanted to do, you know, post rugby or post my career in sport is to just help like young individuals, youth kind of find their way and stay on a path, or find a path in general, and just, you know, not get sucked into whatever it is that's pulling, maybe where they live or who their friends are or whatever it is, what they don't have. I've always wanted to help people and, you know, give people the tools and the resources that I was so lucky enough to receive when I was, you know, in a very unstable position growing up. I actually just got accepted into school this morning.
Congratulations, buddy. Yo, all my applauses. Yo, congratulations.
Yeah, I got accepted into school this morning for a child and youth program. So, yeah, it's just kind of like just building the little boxes of what I want to put my life towards post sport, I guess.
Guys, thank you so much for taking the time. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, some of the best people we've had on here, and we got so much more coming through. Like, there's a lot happening in a very short amount of time. But you know what? It's going to be worth it, and I want to make sure that you guys stay informed, that you guys understand what's happening, and most importantly, that you get to know the people that are doing things in this sport. Not just because they're doing things, but because it shows that you're capable of doing it yourself. So, in the meantime, definitely check out some of our past episodes. Last week, we had Tamara Van Loon. Prior to that, we had Brandon Davis. We've got Jen Salomon of Mexico Rugby. Shout out to her for playing this past weekend. Thiel Henry of Guyana Rugby. Cody Milby, USA Rugby. Yo, big ups. I hope that he heals up fast. Mick Feely of Citizens Rugby Foundation. And so many more. Squidge Rugby. Robbie Owens of Squidge Rugby. Akinola Raymond of Rugby United. Formerly of Rugby United, now of New York Old Blue. And Erica Mori of the Italian Rugby Union. Like, so many great people. Definitely check it out. Naya Tapper, Chetta Emba, you know, we hitting them. You know, Coma Gandhi Fishbin, Kyle and Tiana Granby, Tiffany Faye. Like, it's so much. It is so much. You definitely want to check it out. But in the meantime, until then, I hope you're happy. I hope that you are healthy. And most importantly, I hope that you know that you are highly favored. Until next time, cheers.